Hello, everyone. And I'm seeing we have people are currently joining our webinar. Welcome. We are going to start the webinar in a few minutes. Good evening. Thank you for joining Devant's immigration Q&A sessions on 11/27 at 7 p.m. It's our pleasure to get to have this many participants for the day. Yes, please feel free to use the chat functions to say hi to each other and greet for each other. Maybe you want to do some quick introductions. We would like to know where you are from, and also what program, if you're currently a student, certain college or universities in Canada, or you're simply a newcomer and you have questions that you would want to ask from our um, panelists for the day. We're going to start the sessions just in a few more minutes. We're waiting for more people to join. All right. And also, please see this space where you can also drop your LinkedIn if you want to connect with people. Again, it's part of the community. Some of you might have been joining our weekly workshops. You might already know Devon for a while. And another way you can connect with other peer students or graduates that in your network to connect with. Just going to wait a few more minutes.
Hello.
Hi, good to see you, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. It's been a while since we last connected.
Yes, for sure. How are you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm doing good. Are you currently based in Toronto?
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh my God, today has been a very interesting, unpredictable weather. I don't
I
know.
know. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's been warm and then cold. I don't know for those who are listening today, joining our webinar, if you're based in GTA area, well, I hope you have stayed warm because it's been extremely windy. I
Hmm.
was like, I wear the thickest what I can possibly wear for today.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Yeah, well, we have a lot of people in our
Hmm.
webinar, and I can tell the chat has been quite active as well. We already received some questions.
Excellent.
Would you want me to give a quick just say hi? You want to say hi to the people, and then we can get it started?
Sure. Sure,
Yes.
absolutely. I'm just wondering, could you let me share my slides over here?
Absolutely. Let me. You should be able to, or
It says you can request sharing that. I'll send the
oh,
request to
there we
you.
go.
Okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
Cool. Let's get it started.
All right, here we go. So let me do this first. Do
Yes.
this, yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Would you want to do the beginning sections and then we can take it over?
mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Thank you
Shall we
for
record this first?
it's been recording,
It's being
I believe.
recorded. Okay,
It's being
excellent.
recorded.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent.
Cool. All right. So I'll get started. Good evening, everyone. We're officially starting our webinar for the day. I am Laisha coming from Devant. Also, I'm joining with my colleague Kritika. Well, for those who doesn't know Devant, or you know about us for a while, we will be briefly doing quick introductions of our team. Maybe we can go next slides. Yes, my colleague Kritika also is joining from Humber College to support on any questions that you may have in the chat or later on during our Q&A sessions. All right. So again, because we have large volume of participants who are joining our webinar for the day, so we will be muting you throughout the presentation. And of course, you will have chance where you can ask questions in the Q&A sections, or you can simply put it in the chat, and we will make sure that we'll go through as much questions as possible. Hopefully, we can cover almost every questions throughout the webinar for the day.
Like you should, could I just suggest that
Yeah.
we just have everybody put their questions in the Q&A so that it just makes it easier for us to
Oh,
just look at
absolutely.
one place? Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
perfect.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So before we jump into the full webinar sessions on the immigration topic, just want to briefly share who we are as a company. D1, we mainly support international students as well as newcomers across Canada. If you have any questions that is relevant to career development, or if you ever need support when it comes to connecting with career coaches, or using any AI-based platform, you want to improve your career skills and also your try to stand out further in your applications, you can certainly reach out to us, follow us on LinkedIn. You can also connect us through our social media. Go to our website that devant at .ca, or you can also reach out to us through info@devant.com. We'll be able to support you for any questions and any support that you need. All right, we can go to next. Yeah, so I also want to briefly mention this is an information sessions covering briefly in terms of what the IRCC has been announcing and supporting you for any questions that you have from our professional immigration expertise. And if you want to go further consultations, you can of course connect with our guest host speaker today, or you can also reach out to your college institution's support for further customized legal support. All right, the floor is yours,
Thank you very
Elizabeth. Yeah.
much. Okay, so everyone, today we are going to talk about some predictions for the next few years. We'll concentrate on 2026 because in immigration law, things change all of the time. And just to let you guys know, for those who have signed up for today's session, we're going to be adding you guys to our list where we will send you updates on immigration law. Because what I tell you today is true for today, but immigration laws changes so much. And really, a lot of these things today I'm telling you are I'm going to tell you some predictions, but those are a lot of conjectures. And when things unravel and how, when immigration law changes, the only way that we're going to be able to reach you later on are through our notices to you guys. Okay? Um, so today we had the budget that's been announced and it's going to be passed in Parliament, it looks like. And one of the big announcements in the budget was with regard to immigration. And the day after they announced the original budget, which had some a lot of information about immigration, the immigration minister announced their plan for the next 3 years. Now, it has to be noted that this plan that they announced for the next 3 years differs significantly from the plan that they just announced a few months ago for 3 years. So it's not necessarily that this plan that they've announced is going to be followed for 3 years for sure, but it gives us an indication, at least for 2026, as to what we probably can expect for the next year. Okay, so what are we going to be expecting for the next year? First of all, the number of new students is dramatically reducing to 155,000 for 2026. Now, this does not include extensions. Okay, so if you need to extend to another program, this number does not include you. So don't worry about that. But it does include new students that are going to be coming in to Canada. Dramatically decreases. For those of you guys who are already in Canada, it might be some good news in that you're not going to be competing for with a whole bunch of new students coming in, but this certainly changes the landscape for that. Workers. Again, this does not include extensions in Canada. So it does not include you guys who are going to be applying for the post-grad work permits, okay? But the number of new workers that the government wants to limit it to is the median level is going to be around 230,000. These numbers really dramatically decrease from previous years. At one point, it was estimated that we had 900,000 international students in Canada in one year. So, from those numbers to this is pretty dramatic. But again, you have to take it with a grain of salt because these numbers do not include extensions in Canada and applications that are made inside Canada. One of the most important numbers, though, that you do need to consider are the permanent residence numbers. Okay. It's estimated right now that we have around 1.5 million people with work permits in Canada. And the overall number for permanent residents for next year will be 380,000 plus there's going to be another protected persons initiatives on top. But 380,000 is for all of the PR other than the protected persons. And for economic permanent residents is 200 and it's around 240,000 spots. Okay. So what does that mean? What does that mean for economic PR, which is most of what you guys will be applying for? Some of you may qualify for other programs, and today I'm not going to talk about those other programs like spousal sponsorships, perhaps protected persons, but you have to be very careful with that. We just did a program a while back, just a few months ago, with Devant about refugee claims and the risks of applying for refugee claim. So if you are thinking about that, please go and speak to a qualified lawyer. You can come to us and my colleague in the last time when we had the session, my colleague Otto, who is a specialist lawyer in refugee law, was speaking about that. So go to someone like him who understands refugee law because you can get yourself into a lot of issues if you don't know what you're doing, okay? Now, let's talk about economic permanent residence category numbers. What are they looking like? All right, so express entry, we're gonna have the estimation is that there's going to be around 120,000 spots that are drawn. Why 120,000 spots? So this is the upper end of what they're saying. So if they're saying upper end, then we're guessing that in order to have the upper end, they're going to have that many number of draws, and then they're estimating that some people will be rejected, etc. Okay. Currently, we only have 86,000. I did a calculation yesterday, and currently we had around 86,000 invitations this year. So we're still down somewhat from the 110, I think, or something thousand that was supposed to be for this year. So there might still be some room for the numbers to come down a little bit. Next year, we shall see on how many draws there are for the general draws and how many draws there are for the draws that are the special draws, the category-based draws as well. Will the numbers come down? Maybe a little bit. I think, given these numbers, we're almost in December right now, so 1 month left, and there's still quite a lot left from the 120,000 draws. So the more people who get in, where they invite more people, the more likely normally that the numbers may get less because you're eliminating, you're already inviting people who are at the top, and more of the the top people will be invited. So we shall see. Hopefully, there's going to be a little bit of reduction of the draw numbers for express entry. PNPs. Now, this is something that is good news because this year, for 2025, the federal government reduced the numbers by 50% for all of the provinces. I think Newfoundland was the only one where they didn't decrease the numbers. They are, however, for next year, going back to levels similar to 2024. So that is good because that gives more room for the provinces to invite people to apply. However, for example, with the Ontario government is still dealing with a lot of backlogs where many people are still waiting to be processed, even though they've submitted their applications in 2024. In Ontario, they've even suspended and returned the applications under, for example, a category called the Skilled Trades Program, and they've passed legislation where they can return other kinds of applications. And the one for skilled trades, they said it was due to fraud, but other kinds of applications can be due to any sort of reasons dealing with economic need, essentially. Okay. So um, I think with the provincial nominee programs, we may see a little bit more of the draws than this year for next year, but don't expect it to be the same, I would say, as 2024 because they're still dealing with the backlogs. And also because there's going to be a lot more people applying with the provinces if express entry is difficult to get invited to apply. RSIP and other kinds of Atlantic immigrant programs and the regional programs, those are still ongoing and they're still there. So if you qualify for under these kind of regional programs, um, those are great. Caregiver program is still there as well, but the caregiver program, number one, there is that issue with the quota. When it opened this year in March, it was basically gone in a matter of, well, it crashed very early on during the day, and then it was gone after it came up after, a matter of a few minutes, under an hour, I believe, an hour or so. So next year, the government has announced that it will come again in March, and likely it won't be open for very much longer, maybe a matter of a few minutes when it opens. So, uh, whether or not, if you're applying under the caregiver program, you can even get your application in would be a question. Sometimes it's like it's just how fast you can get your application through with your servers. If you're lucky enough to, it's like buying what Taylor Swift tickets. It's almost like that, basically, trying to get your applications in on these first come, first serve applications, right? Um, and then there's also an issue with the processing time. With the caregivers, if you look online right now and you're looking at the processing time, it says there's going to be over 10 years for processing time for a caregiver program. So even if you can get your application in, it's pretty ridiculous. It looks like these applications, and given you know, the numbers that are announced in the budget, it looks like it's going to be a very lengthy processing time for caregivers as well. Um, Now, there is going to be this one-time application for 30,000 work permit holders. Again, this is probably going to be, if it's anything like the TR to PR program like last time, it's probably going to be a first come, first serve. And I think this will be even harder Then the caregiver program. We don't know what the criteria is going to be at this point. They just said it's for workers in Canada. Given that we have 1.5 million workers, 33,000 is a very, very small fraction of the total amount of workers who might qualify for this. So this might be even harder to get than Taylor Swift tickets. Um, if you're wanting to, maybe take your chance at all, I would, given what happened with the last TR to PR applications, get your language tests, your ECAs ready just in case that's something that they are looking at. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some strategies for your permanent residence. First of all, you got to plan early. And even though oftentimes there's no foolproof plan, it really does help if even while you're in school, you have a few plans, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. It helps to know what might be out there, but also what the government is thinking and what kinds of people under the economic streams that the government might want to invite in the future. Be practical, okay? Sometimes people say, oh, well, I'm just gonna, um, open up a business myself, and then I'm gonna employ myself, and then I'm going to try to do something which I show that I'm not going to employ myself, or, different kinds of weird things that it doesn't really make sense that you can actually get it done. Be practical on what is possible and what your abilities are. Do not misrepresent. In this kind of environment, it is very tempting, and there will be a lot of people out there who say, hey, just say that you worked here. You didn't really work there, but just say that you did. You can produce some fake documents, and you'll get away with it. Immigration now is really, really cracking down and really, really examining things very closely. They had just returned the skilled trades applications because they were saying they were discovering a lot of fraud. Express entry, they are really examining very closely things like foreign work experience, and they're looking at previous applications that you did where you, for example, you submitted your study permit application and you didn't declare any work experience on there. And now for your express entry application, you're saying you had foreign work experience. And if they find that you misrepresented, either on your study permit application or on your permanent residence application, that carries with it a 5-year ban from Canada. Okay, so it is very, very important that you deal with past misrepresentation very carefully and that you do not misrepresent in the present time. Okay, and anyone who is telling you, oh, you don't worry about that, they won't find out, that is a very run the other way. Okay, because there are ways to do it properly. There are ways to plan, innovate, think of ways that you can do things. And there are ways where you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. Stay in status. One of the biggest strategies we have for many people right now is to see how people can remain in status for as long as possible, right? A lot of people who are doing a 1-year program, if you only have a 1-year work permit at the end, is that going to be enough for you to get permanent residence? Many people who have 3-year work permits, that might not be enough to get you permanent residence at the end. You may have to extend it in other ways. So how are you going to extend your work permit in other ways? That's a lot of what we do when we look at someone's situation. And even if they don't qualify for permanent residence right away, you need some time to gather the work experience. You need some time to get the right job offer, to find the right job. In that period of time, you must have the status. Okay? You pivot if you need to as well. Be ready to change, do something else if it doesn't work. Okay? You have to be flexible in seeing, okay, you know what, this job is in demand. I can actually do this job. Even if it's not something that I studied, this is something that I could do. Let me pivot. Okay? Hire a good lawyer. Okay? Right now, all of these kinds of applications, you don't get a second chance. If you're lucky enough to get invited to apply, you must submit it perfectly. And immigration officers these days are much, much more, uh, they examine your applications much more closely, and oftentimes they make mistakes. They make judgments that they are unreasonable. Um, sometimes using AI, and you must know someone who A can try to put your best application forward using all the evidence that is possible, and also to deal with bad judgments, unreasonable decisions by officers as well. And finally, be prepared to fight because these days it's no longer what it was like in 2, 3 years ago. Okay. People say, oh yeah, it's so easy to immigrate. No, it is hard, more difficult these days than I've ever seen in my 20 years of practice. And so many times it is a fight, but you guys are already here. You guys are already in a situation where you have been able to do things that most other people in this world won't do. And to leave everything you know behind, leave everyone you know behind, come to a new country. So you already have that fight in you. Be prepared to keep on fighting in order to get those few spots for permanent residence. All right. So let's move on to some questions. I just wanted to provide this information to you guys. If you guys want to have a consultation with one of the lawyers at our firm, email us and let us know you are coming from Devant and you've attended a webinar here, and we will give you the discounted rate of the consultation fee, which is $100 plus tax. And we do everything by video conference, so you don't have to make your way downtown to downtown Toronto. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much. We have lots of questions, burning questions,
Mhm.
as you're seeing from Q&A sections. Would you want to start going through each one of them?
I'll
Or,
let you choose, Laisha.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so just want to briefly tell everyone, yes, we have recorded the webinar for the day, and we'll be also sharing the recording for those who have attended for our webinar today as well, so you have access to the information. Great. So let's go through the questions that I'm seeing. I'm seeing the first question that shows up in here. Someone have asked, if I don't get a skilled job, is there any other way to get PR? Are there other pilot programs if you move provinces? Do you have to learn French?
So there are different kinds of programs
Uh,
where and it depends on the different provinces. There are all sorts of different programs. I think we did one
mhm,
a while back on low skilled jobs, but we can certainly do one again. Yes,
mm,
there are programs
yes.
depending on what you do. When we talk about low skilled work, most of the PR programs are very specific on the occupation, the type of occupation
Mm,
that you do. So, for example, caregiver program in Ontario, there is the in-demand stream.
mhm,
In some of the other provinces, for example, some of the Atlantic provinces like Newfoundland, they don't
mhm,
distinguish if the job is high skilled or low skilled in some of their programs.
mhm.
Um, so there's different kinds of programs. Come if you don't have high skilled work or you may not get high skilled work, you're interested in doing anything, come and we'll talk about it and we can plan it out.
Great. And I'm seeing another question is trying to understand. I had never heard of SOWP application versus PGWP.
Okay.
The what are the
So
new dynamics?
So the postgrad work permit is the postgrad PGWP, and the spousal open work permit is
Mm-hmm.
SOWP. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so there are new rules with regard to um, work spousal work permits for
Mm-hmm.
spouses of workers. All right. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and there are certainly new rules with regard to the post-grad workers. I can't get into all of the rules because, that's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit too much today. But the spousal work permits, it depends right now for the most part, unless you have, you like the principal applicant has permanent residence, been invited for permanent residence.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it depends on the
Mm-hmm.
principal applicant's job offer. And for the most part, it's 18 months for the, sorry, 16 months for the job offer, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to have the type of occupation as well.
Okay, and we have one more question. Seems like someone has applied for PR already or in the process of application. And me asking, is there any time limits taken unpaid leave while the application is being processed?
Unpaid leave can be very
Yeah.
tricky. Paid leave is when you have, you're just on vacation. We can say, but when you're taking long periods of leave where you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to have a job offer, that could be very tricky, and it
Mm-hmm.
could indicate that you're not actually working in the job. You may not
Mm-hmm.
have a job offer, depending on the kind of application. I can't comment for sure whether this would
Mm-hmm.
be a failure, but it can be very tricky. So do come for a consultation.
Yeah. And there's one question from a student who is currently studying as an international student, might have previously benefited from PGWP. And is there any other options available for for for
Right.
the
So
student
we
to
have
continue?
many people who
Yeah.
postgrad workers are about to expire,
Mm-hmm.
don't have permanent residence yet. That is a whole, that's everybody is very different.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, we're looking at whether or not A, you might qualify for some sort of program, and
Mm-hmm.
B, how to extend your status, and extend your work permit under other work permit categories.
Great. And so I am looking through all the burning questions, trying to find the one that could apply for as many people as possible. Um, and I think there's one specific questions in terms of in correlations to now code. One person have asked, he or she has full-time job offer, but not sure if it's under any now code or ONIP program that is skilled trade jobs. So can you provide some guidance where people can find null code in relation to, let's say, provincial nominee programs, or how they can target more strategically as through ONIP International Student Stream?
Yeah, we can certainly do a whole program on
Uh-huh.
there's so many ideas for new seminar ideas for next year.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, we'll schedule all the details for next year. Please stay tuned.
Yes, yes, for sure. But
Yes.
you guys, please let us know what you like to hear as well, what you like
Mhm.
to see as well. But yeah, we could certainly do a whole program on the OIMP, and we do have meetings. I'm part of the Ontario Bar Association. We do have meetings with the OIMP officers and the minister as well, and it does look like there
Mhm.
might be some new programs coming down the pipeline for next
Mhm.
year.
Mhm.
But if you wanted to know for the international student stream, it is the high skilled work that qualifies
Mhm.
you, job
Mhm.
offer. You don't have to have work
Mhm.
experience for international student stream, but you must have the high skilled job offer that meets entry level wage. If you wanted to find out where to figure out your knock codes, you can figure out your knock codes by, I think, Googling, I think it's noc.east. I can't remember the website, but just Google
Not code.
knock
Yeah.
codes, and you'll find, that website where you can check out your knock codes. But the OIMP, we probably should have a program on that next year because there's
Yes.
been a lot of changes, and a lot of different rules, and
Mm-hmm.
probably more to come next year.
Great. Yes. And there's one question I believe will apply to many international students who are about to apply for a PGWP, as this is a new requirement being added for English test. Is there
Mhm.
any minimum score that is required for PGWP?
Yeah,
And
I
what are
believe.
the mistakes that they should avoid that can cause delay
What are the
for the
mistakes they
application?
can avoid that can cause delay? The delay for post-grad work permits is always with regard to, I mean, it depends. If you're missing documents, you can just have your application denied, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you're missing documents, they'll delay and they'll be nice and ask you, but most of the time they'll just deny it. But the delay for postgrad work, sometimes you want your postgrad work permit to be delayed in processing. You don't want it to be processed
Mm-hmm.
that fast because you can actually start working if you apply at the right time within 90
Mm-hmm.
days of your completion, and when your study permit is still valid, you can start working until a decision is made on your postgrad work permit. So if it takes 8 months to process your postgrad work permit, fantastic. You get 8 months plus 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the
Mm-hmm.
delay is not a bad thing for the
Mm-hmm.
postgrad work permit. The bad
Mm-hmm.
thing is if you don't qualify, you get it denied, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about all sorts of things like you didn't study full time in every single semester except the last semester. You were out of status and you studied out of
Mm-hmm.
status. You
Mm-hmm.
were the distance education could be a thing, or uh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, or the program didn't qualify. So there's all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of reasons for denials for postgrad work permits beyond the English levels, which you certainly
Mm-hmm.
should have your exam ready, your
Mm-hmm.
exam results ready for your work permit.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the information. And what I'm seeing, there are another sort of a theme, common theme questions that are in our Q&A list. It's understanding the process time of PR. Let's say they have applied through provincial nominee program or express entry. Like, what is the anticipated time frame that looks like for them to starting from applications, invitation, and the whole process. Totally varies from individual cases, but still.
I can only talk about it from the time of ITA, okay?
Yeah.
Because you could be in the pool forever and you might not be
Mm-hmm.
invited to apply. Okay, so I can talk about it from the ITA. Once you've received your invitation to apply, you normally have 60 days for express entry to submit your application. From there, we can see application processing times of normally between 2 months to 6 months.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, if the officers have doubts about your application, it
Mm-hmm.
goes to secondary examination, or there might be some security issues where they're, for example, we're seeing this a lot with Iranian applications where the Canadian
Mm-hmm.
thesis, they're not getting the information from the Iranian government. We can see
Mm-hmm.
delays of over a year or more. Okay, so that's
Mm-hmm.
the situation with express entry, but overall, in general, process time is not bad. Provincial
Mm-hmm.
nominee programs from invitation, again, sometimes it depends on the province. With OIMP, oftentimes you
Yeah.
can have applications decided in, we've seen applications decided for in less than 2 weeks sometimes. Other times, it's been in process for over a year in
Mm-hmm.
OIMP, and it's still not being processed. So that's by the provincial government. And then with the federal government, you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
around a year and a half to 2 years
Mm-hmm.
for processing time for the federal government normally.
Mm-hmm. That's great to know. And there is one question, kind of aligned with what you have briefly presented in your sections, where you suggest to have different plans when you're applying for PR through different options. And once one person asked, will there be any risk to apply multiple pathways at the same time?
Depending on which it is, but most of the time for the economic pathways, you can apply for different ones. You can do express entry, you can do provincial nominee
Mm-hmm.
program, and see which one, you know, goes through and gets them, submit. You can even submit both. Even if you can get invitations to apply for both, you can submit both. For the provincial nominee programs, you
Mm-hmm.
you're not able to get two provincial certification nomination certificates. So
Mm-hmm.
if you've been
Mm-hmm.
approved for one provincial nomination certificate and then you were like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
another one might be faster, I want to do the other. Be careful because sometimes they can return applications now as well. You really want to take that risk, you can say no to the first one. You'll have to withdraw from the first one and then apply under the second one.
Okay, that's good to know. And it seems like there's another common theme questions in terms of how they can support their family members either to come and visit them or potentially to work while they are studying as international students in Canada.
So for visas, uh, a lot of times it depends on the visa post, it depends on individual circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So the visa post, when they're determining temporary residence status,
Mm-hmm.
they have this thing where if they make a determination that this individual is not likely to return at the end of the temporary status period,
Mm-hmm.
then they can, that's the common reason why they say it's denied. We are seeing
Mm-hmm.
a lot of unreasonable denials
Mm-hmm.
at
Mm-hmm.
visa posts.
Mm-hmm.
We can resubmit the applications. We can do a judicial review of the applications in federal courts.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, if an application has been denied before, it is that much harder, very much, much harder. It'll be red flagged. It'll be very
Mm-hmm.
much harder to have it approved. It's not impossible to be approved, but it
Mm-hmm.
will be much harder to be approved
Mm-hmm.
if the second time around.
Okay, thank you for the information. And I am again trying. We see a lot of questions, and they all been waiting urgently to be responded. I'll do my best to cover as many as I can. Um, I think still sort of continue on the family support. One person is asking, is there any specific sort of preparations requirements that they need to be ready, for example, financially be having certain available funding in their banking, and also while they're maintaining their legal status, how long their spouse or their direct family members can work in Canada. If you can provide them some basic information, that will be helpful.
With the spousal work permits or temporary
Spousal
residence
work permits.
visas
Yes.
and things like that, if they're
Yeah.
outside of Canada, inside Canada, it's much easier if they're inside Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of
Mm-hmm.
Canada, the visa posts can get, and they're using AI these days, in almost all of these applications, and we have seen a huge rise in refusals because they're using
Mm-hmm.
AI. The algorithms for the AI, no one knows exactly what the algorithms are, but a lot of times they are just red flagging people for no good reason, and it depends on the visa post as well.
Mm-hmm.
Financial, yes, you should show that you have enough financials
Mm-hmm.
to support your family. But beyond
Mm-hmm.
that, there are also other factors as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not there were previous rejections, whether or not they have ties to the home country,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, it really depends on the
Mm-hmm.
previous rejections are huge, but
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes even in the first instance, the application
Mm-hmm.
can be denied and depends on what was submitted in the applications, and
Mm-hmm.
dealing with those kind of applications, how you're dealing with it on the second time around.
Okay. And again, as you're answering questions, I am going through the questions that are adding up.
Okay.
Um, all right, so I will go through one question that's being asked. If I am about to finish my second program in December, what are the important documents that they should prepare for PGWP as early as end of this year or early next year. So general information that'll be helpful.
Yeah,
A
I
lot of
mean, postgrad work permits, it's pretty straightforward. You're looking at
mm-hmm,
your to prove that you qualify for postgrad work permit. So you're looking at
mm-hmm,
your transcripts, your completion letters. You're looking,
mm-hmm,
your second program must be completed within 2 years of the completion date of your first program,
mm-hmm,
right? You're
mm-hmm.
looking at your language results. Those are mainly what they're looking for postgrad work permits, that you've studied, full-time student, and you met the requirements
Mm-hmm.
for the postgrad work permit.
And again, another question is between they get postgraduate permits and after they graduated, that period, like how they can be more careful when they should start working and when they can start working again.
Okay, yeah. So we did this, I think, in September, but let me sort of go through that timeline.
Yeah.
Until you have the decision by the school where they informed you that you've completed your studies, you're still
Mm-hmm.
enrolled as a full-time student. You're still counted as enrolling as a full-time student, so you can work part-time 24 hours, right? Until that decision, that
Mm-hmm.
completion announcement has been told to you. At that point in time, you have to stop working and
Mm-hmm.
you can start working again once you've
Mm-hmm.
filed your postgrad work permit, as long as your study permit is still valid at that time, and you apply
Mm-hmm.
for your postgrad work permit within 90 days of the completion of your studies.
Okay, okay. And I know there are a few people have been asking questions that are very specific to a unique case. We will try to pick the questions that are general enough that applies to more audiences given the time that we have. If you have very specific to your unique case, we'll strongly recommend you to reach out to Elizabeth and her team through what we have shared on the screen, and they will be able to support you specifically in your unique cases. Or you can also reach out to your international students office in your institutions, and they will be also support you for questions that are relevant to your unique study programs, work permits, and etc. And I think a few more questions that are coming up again is I am seeing reading it through all, it's quite different. Okay. Questions in terms of the language requirements. Again, it's been happening like repeatedly in the chat. There are people very much concerned about the requirements in terms of the English test, and there are two different English tests available, and which one would be the best best way to choose. And of course, what would the impact if they also know French? And like any sort of suggestions, recommendations that you have for those who wants to improve their score through languages in
Right.
general.
The language
Yeah.
is one of the key aspects to being able to qualify for permanent residence,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to immigrate. So with regard to the English, there's actually three tests now. There's the IELTS General, the
Mm-hmm.
CELPIP General,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the PTE, the Pearson.
Mm-hmm.
As to which one is easier, I think it really depends on the situation. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Pearson, for example, is half the length of time as CELPIP and IELTS.
Mm-hmm.
I CELPIP, all three of them are computer based. The IELTS, the nice thing, or maybe not nice thing, who knows, but the IELTS, they
Mm-hmm.
have a real person that you talk to, whereas I think CELPIP and Pearson, it's
Mm-hmm.
like on it's just you're recording and then someone is interpreting this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to say which one is better, but yeah, it depends. Sometimes people like CELPIP, other people like
Mm-hmm.
IELTS.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
overall, they test all the things. And what I can say to you guys is you must prepare for the exam. I don't care if English is your only language, is your mother language, whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
have people who study literature, English
Mm-hmm.
literature as their subject, and they still don't do well on the exams. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because they take it too lightly. Okay, so make sure that you
Mm-hmm.
know what is expected from you.
Mm-hmm.
French exams are there's two. There's TEF and the TCF. I have heard from some people that perhaps a TCF might be easier,
Mm-hmm.
but just depending on the way that they're testing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing with the French is it can be very important.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. One is if your work permit is about to expire, there is a very good program right now called the Francophone Work Permit, where if
Mm-hmm.
only you're speaking and listening, you pass at the CLB 5 level,
Mm-hmm.
then you can get a francophone work permit for any job outside of Quebec. Um, it, yeah, and that's it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a nice francophone work permit. And I have seen people who really had zero basis in French get a
Mm-hmm.
5 in the speaking and listening that level, and they were able
Mm-hmm.
to get a frank just by practicing really, really hard. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there is if you can get to the CLB 7 level, reading, writing, listening, speaking, you can get into the French draws. There's
Mm-hmm.
hosts of other programs there as well, but the French draws is the main thing for express entry. If you can get a French draw invitation to apply, you should be able to get your permanent residence quite easily. So, there's all sorts of uh, different kinds of programs
Mm-hmm.
that a little bit, a 0.5 in your IELTS on one of the programs can make the difference between whether or not you can get invited to apply.
Thank you for the information. And there seems a lot of questions in terms of moving across Canada while they're having the PR applications or when they have work permits application process. Will there be any sort of an effect in terms of if they have decided to, let's say they applied their PR in Ontario while it's still being processed and move to different province and then live and work in that province?
So certainly if you depends on the program and depends on
Mm-hmm.
whether or not they've really applied or they're just in the pool waiting to be applied.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a very guys, you have to in immigration law, we
Mm-hmm.
have to use terms very specifically because muddled terms can get very confusing. Okay. When you apply for a permanent residence for express entry
Mm-hmm.
provincial nominee program, you have
Mm-hmm.
received that invitation to apply, notice,
Mm-hmm.
notification of interest, expression of it, whatever it is. You have been invited by the government to apply and you've submitted your application. Simply putting your name in and a profile into the pool does not equal applying. Okay. So if you've applied for your application, meaning you've been invited to apply by the government, depending on
Mm-hmm.
the application, Express Entry is a federal program. You will qualify for Express Entry if you move to any province except Quebec. If you move to Quebec, you forget about the Express Entry
Mm-hmm.
applications because if your intent is to live in Quebec after you get permanent residence, then you will not qualify for express entry. But any other province is okay, except
Mm-hmm.
where you have been nominated by a province. If you have been nominated by a province, or if you're applying for
Mm-hmm.
nomination, you're waiting for a decision by
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
province is very concerned about whether or not you are going to live in that province after you get your permanent
Mm-hmm.
residence. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're waiting for a decision by the federal government or by the provincial government, for your permanent residence application. If you move
Mm-hmm.
to another province, then your application is likely going to be rejected. Okay, even if you have a provincial nomination, you're still waiting for the federal government to approve it. Even if you have a provincial nomination, so in those kind of circumstances, be very, very careful. Now, you don't have to live in the province forever after you get your permanent residence. Your intentions are allowed to change after you get
Mm-hmm.
permanent residence. But until you get your permanent residence, you need to be very cognizant of your limitations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the information. So many layers, layers after layers. One question is connecting back to supporting their spouse to or fiance engaged individuals to come and visit as a visitor in Canada. Will there be a chance they can change the status after they came here as tourists?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
they
that's
qualify
yeah.
for open spousal work permit, yes, they can apply for open spousal work permit. Yeah.
And one more question is sort of connected to what we're going to cover our next immigration sessions happening in December is in terms of holiday seasons coming up and how they can travel. One specific question is if you have valid study permits and you have submit the PGWP, can you travel outside Canada and come back?
Stay tuned. That's a very, it's not a one answer. It depends
Yes.
on your situation. Stay tuned.
Hmm.
There are things that you can do that are safe, and there's things that you do that are risky, and
Yeah.
there are things that you should never do,
Hmm.
and there's things that you can do. So that's a little preview, I
It's a
guess.
preview
Stay
and it's happening
tuned
on December
for next
10th.
time. Yes, December 10th.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll cover all the questions that you have in terms of traveling internationally or mostly gonna be internationally, but if you want to travel domestically, regardless, you would want to join December 10th, our immigration sessions at the same
Yes.
time, 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes.
Yes.
Can we just talk about these other programs? We only have
Absolutely.
around
As yeah,
minutes left.
absolutely. Yeah, and I really wanted to bring everyone's attention, although we couldn't cover all the questions. We have like I believe like around 50 questions in the Q&A sections. I'm so sorry we couldn't cover them all, but again, it is just a beginning, and we'll be covering another immigration specific topic on December 10th. We also have next Wednesday, we're going to have a specific workshop to talk about what are expectations from the employers if you really want to plan properly for your a career development plan for next year. You would want to join Devant next Wednesday with our career coaches. We'll be doing a lot of workshops to really deep dive into what employers from different sectors are looking for from different stages of a career. Let's say your early stage, mid, or advanced career specialist. Then we have the immigration sessions happening December 10th, and we're going to wrap up the year on December 17th with Christmas Social. We'll be doing some events, fun activities where you can connect with everyone within the Devon community. At the same time, we'll be also have a lot more tools and resources helping you to start planning your job search for next year. All right. As we're ending, I just wanted to also briefly ask everyone if you would want to scan the QR code on the screen, if you are recent graduates or someone who was graduating within Canadian institutions for a long period of time, you're looking for a job or you're trying to transition from your current industry to a different occupations, we have Alumni Advantage available for you that you can use our AI-based career development platform, helping you to refine your resume, your cover letter. You can practice your interviews. We also have advanced job board as well as mobile phone application that you can simply apply for jobs through the convenience of your phone. If you want, please scan the QR code and learn more about our Alumni Advantage that is available. And I just wanted to also ask everyone if you can briefly answer one questions. I'm going to launch it. If you are someone you would want to learn more about Alumni Advantage relevant information, how you can utilize AI career tools to really improve your um, applications while you are trying to navigate through this uncertain period of time, especially within Canada, with all the ups and downs with unemployment rates and economic pressures that happening that we all are experiencing at the same time. All right. That should be overall that we have for the day. Thank you so much for your time and your participations. It has been a very successful event. I learned so much, and I was international student once, and I just got my PR this year, and it took me
Thanks.
very long time, very long, stressful time to go through almost close to 4 to 5 years of battle to
Mhm.
plan everything financially, legally, and also where I travel, where I go. So I'm with everyone. If I can succeed, I'm sure if you do it right, get right information, research properly, and plan advanced, you should be able to support yourself and your family members to also succeed in your PR application. All
Congratulations,
right.
Aisha. That's
Thank you.
awesome. That's
Thank
so
you
great.
so much. That's a great success for me for the 2025.
Fantastic.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for everyone for joining our webinar today, and we're looking forward to have you back next Wednesday.
Take care, everyone.
Of course.